All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, all you great decoders out there around the world, wherever you are, male and female, all you great syncretists, wherever you're at, wherever channel you're coming from, I want to welcome all you out to the Simulation Theory Part 2. There will be a delay in the audio. I have a new rig that I have hooked up. I have not been able to figure out the audio lag. My apologies. This will be recorded and I will re-upload this and I will take down the live. So if you can grin and bear the lips not syncing up with our audio, then nice to have you here. And back by popular demand, the great Jason Breshears from archaics.com. Jason, welcome out once again, man. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to have you here once again.
Man, thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, man. It's nice to have you here. So many views that we got for the very first one. I think we're closing in on like 13,000 views. That's on the recorded version. So a mighty big thank you to each and every one of you in the decoding community that has supported my channel, Jason's family, Syncretism Society, The Devil's Playground, Waters Above Crypto, all the great people that I have like minds with. So a big shout out to all these channels. But most importantly, thank you to each and every one out there that have supported this mission and, this great topic called the simulation theory. And, to me, it's more fact than it is theory, but I label it as such just to kind of get the gears grinding in your brain to figure it out for yourself. You got to make the truth your own. But Jason, welcome out again, man. I mean, at the very top of your mind right now, like you've been doing a lot of podcasts, your view counts are blowing up. Your analytics are smoke. They have smoke on them. And as it should be, because of, you've done the research, being this chronologist, this historian, you've gone and done the time and put countless hours into developing a theory that I think is more fact than anything else. But really what comes to your mind? Because we're doing this improv, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say, what you've been doing all these podcasts. What is the main thing you've been talking about beyond just the whole simulation theory?
Well, there's a disparity between what I'm trying to convey and what I actually convey. And I see this difference in the comments. People are catching up, but sometimes I'm moving too fast because I don't automatically know exactly what frames of reference other people are receiving my data. So some of the comments I get on my channel are so off topic, and I don't want to correct somebody and make them feel, that I don't want anybody to feel that they're stupid, because it has nothing to do with levels of intelligence. It has everything to do with frames of reference. There's a huge difference. So right now, the main thing I'm going through is I'm trying to figure out another way to wrap my information around into more modern, basically colloquials and vernacular that the common man is really used to. And I need to be educated on this. And I have people sending me emails trying to show me, because they understand this problem too. They see it. And the problem is I was away from society for so long that I don't understand. You guys talk about movies like all you got to do is mention a movie and all of you are on the same page. You know what the movie was about, you know what year it came out, and you understand the premise behind the movie. And for all the decoders that have put out information about that movie, you all basically know what you're talking about. Jason's on the sideline going, what in the hell are these dudes talking about? So I just be quiet. I'm just quiet. I don't know. You guys have such a wealth of information from modern culture that I am absolutely bereft of. I have not followed any of this stuff in modern culture.
Got it. Well, thanks for being authentic and honest. That's one of the things I really appreciate and adore about you is that you're very open and honest, raw. You have a lot of integrity and you're super authentic, and that's rare these days. So I really appreciate, besides the massive amount of gnosis you drop on the community, I just really appreciate you being super authentic. So. Oh, we have a freeze up here. Oh, I lost, hang on folks. Well, I lost Jason.
I'm here. I don't know what happened.
Oh, there you go. Oop. Let's, there we go. I don't know what happened. We had a little bit of a freeze up, but.
Well, you know the hurricane winds and storms that you were suffering earlier today?
Yeah. Still feeling them.
That's good. Well, that's going on here right now in Texas. We got storms right now.
Yeah. So, yeah. My power went out today.
It's been raining. Yeah, it's been raining for the past 2 hours here.
Okay. Got it.
Anyway, hey, I don't even know what the last thing you heard was.
I don't know. I just said I appreciate you being so authentic with your deliveries and your material and just as a human being. So that's where I kind of left it off. And then I missed everything.
Okay. So I guess I need to start from the beginning, huh?
You do.
Okay. All right. Well, that's easy to do. So, my problem right now, and I have people sending me emails helping me out with it, is that I'm trying to wrap my data around basically frames of reference that most people can accept, because that's where I'm bumping my heads. I'm bumping my heads with people who are not disbelieving the data. They can't get around all the information they have learned all their life to even understand what I'm talking about. And there's a vast gulf between you and I, because I was sequestered from society for so long. I don't understand all these colloquials, and I don't understand all these modern frames of reference you guys have. You talk about a movie, and instantly all your decoders are like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. You know what year it was, the symbols that were in the movie, that was embedded in the movie. You know the subtext. You can talk about these things. I can't share that. I don't know what you're talking about. And so I get comments on my channel all the time. I have to actually Google what people are talking about. I don't know what they're talking about. And then when I Google it, I see why you made this connection. I understand, but no, you're absolutely incorrect. I would have to do a whole video just to correct them.
Yeah.
But the problem I'm having right now is simulation theory is very easy to absorb, but it's all the attachments that go with it. It's the main problem that we have today with simulation theory comes from those who believe themselves more educated than the rest of us. The scientific world, that scientists are the worst students. And it's because the way they're educated. It's because of the compartmentalization of data, where they have to actually accept premises that are untrue in order to be peer reviewed, in order to be established in their own academic circles. Academia has so compartmentalized the study of knowledge that an anthropologist can spend his entire life and never know all the material in his own field, much less geology and astronomy and genetics. And it's so compartmentalized, and there's no crossovers, that there's absolutely no sharing of information. So when we compartmentalize this type of material, these discoveries, this is what we get. We get these paradigms that are foisted upon us that are absolutely untrue, but anybody who is a scientist must defend these positions, or they can't have their own theses published. They can't have their own hypothesis peer reviewed. So I come across this. I get scientific minds on my channel all the time, and I can tell they'll hit me with a comment, and I'm a pretty well educated guy, but I'm self-educated. But I have studied a dictionary and thesaurus for years, and I'll read some of these comments and I realize what's going on. Come on, man. Here's a guy with an academic credentials, and you just used 15 words that I had to look in a dictionary to figure out to understand. That's not the acquisition of knowledge.
Yeah.
If you can't communicate in the easiest discernible common denominators, you're not intelligent. You're a fool. Yeah. That's what communication is about. The ability to convey a thought, not to sound intelligent. Yeah. So this is what I'm having a problem right now with not necessarily trolls, but I'm having a problem with people that are coming to my channel and they're bringing their baggage instead of just coming to my channel to learn something.
Yeah. I can definitely appreciate all that of what you said. I have my own challenges on my channel. And that's why I put a disclaimer on my videos. The majority of them, these are my opinions and truths. You got to use your own logic and discernment. I'm not here to force you. I stand by mine. I stand by my research. I do more than the average bear, but I definitely am not going to force it upon you. But I just see a lot, and we're all ignorant, so this is just me looking in the mirror saying this, but I see a lot of ignorance in the decoding community, and I see a lot of indoctrination of people, and they believe what they grew up at, and they're not willing to let that go. And so this whole topic of simulation theory, this is like literally flipping over the coin and just saying, well, wait a minute, I've never seen this before. And then when you perhaps adopt some of these ideas, you're like, man, that completely smashes everything that I'm attached to and nailed down to the ground on. And I know that's what you're facing, right? I wanted to really get into the 138 again, and I don't have any graphics to share my screen with, but I want to give everybody the idea so you can go check it out yourself. And I also wanted to really bring this up because it's such a big integral part of your research, Jason. And someone after our first simulation theory podcast had posted in the comments, I don't remember who he was or she was, so my apologies, but a big shout out to this person. But they had said that if you take a compass and you put it over the astrological chart, which is round, and you observe the 138, it is going to be over the sign of Leo the Lion. Now, this is in regards to the so below chart. I don't know if you know astrology that much, Jason, but there's two major charts in astrology. There's the so below and the as above. And the so below chart is going to put the 138 of the compass inside the fifth house called Leo the Lion, and it's ruled by the sun. And I think the sun has a major stake in the simulation. But the big clue for me, the big truth bomb, and to me this was absolutely solidifying everything I've been studying, was looking at the as above chart. And I'm going to encourage all of you to do this yourselves, but it's taking the sign of Scorpio, and that is going to be in the specific spot of Leo the Lion at the 138, placing the compass over that as above chart. And Scorpio is the 8th zodiac sign. And this was the kicker. This was the nail in the coffin for me, is Scorpio is the eagle. And the eagle is tied to the sun because Scorpio is the 8th sign and 19 is the 8th prime number. We know that the sun makes that analemma shape as it moves across the sky. So this now falls into the sun perhaps being the phoenix and being a huge part of that.
Well, I can add to that.
Great.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting because the eagle is a symbol of late Western imperialism starting in the Roman times. But the original Roman standards and the old Middle Eastern standards were the phoenix. It was later changed to the eagle. Just like in 1902, which was a phoenix year, the United States, and anybody can Google this to verify it, the United States very quietly changed the Great Seal of the U.S. from a phoenix to a bald eagle in the year 1902. They did that.
Interesting.
Well, other countries have done that too. It's an imperialist sign. The phoenix and the eagle is interchangeable. The old German flags, they also did the double-headed eagle and the double-headed phoenix.
Yep.
It was just an interchangeable sign. But what's even more interesting is I had a book published years ago, I think 2013 or 2014, called Return of the Fallen Ones. And I spend about 50 pages in that book showing the ancient concepts of the zodiac and what they meant to old civilizations, not what they came to mean during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period and all that. And I show, I'm not an astrologer, I don't know anything about astrology. I was just taking my data from old sources and I put it together. And what's really interesting is these ancient astrologers said that the world has been destroyed multiple times, but in the last days, that destruction will come out of the house of Leo.
Wow, that's pretty powerful, man. So that just syncs up with everything I said.
Yeah, that's in my book published in 2013.
Wow.
Return of the Fallen One.
Wow, that's amazing because that house, if you look at the house of Leo, the opposite, because it forms a symbiotic relationship, and in astrology it makes two diamonds and you bring those together and that forms the hourglass, which forms the Taurus fields. Thank you, Santos and company. And the opposite of 5 is house number 11, which is Aquarius, which a lot of astrologers believe that's exactly what age we're in right now. We are in the age of Aquarius.
Well, let me ask you, like I said, I don't have a background in astrology. I really don't know anything about it. Although I've gleaned a tremendous amount of data on astrology, that doesn't mean I'm an astrologer. I don't practice it. I just acquired this information. One thing I came across that was very interesting, I was going to ask Santos about it in maybe a future video, but in the medieval times, one of the greatest practices that I have not seen today was the predicting the future using astrological symbols in their trigons. This is a trigon right here. You see this?
Yep.
This is a trigon.
Yep.
You'll see it in a minute. If there's a delay, you'll see it in a minute.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. Well, trigons, when you just move it one over, it reveals 3 different more symbols.
Yep.
But it will be different planets in those houses at that time.
Yep.
I don't really understand the system. I'm not going to pretend to. But in the medieval ages, during the time of Nostradamus and Trismegistus and Henry Cornelius Agrippa, this was a system of divination that they used to predict future events. They used the trigon system, and I've been trying to find more information on this. I even read some material that mentioned the trigons in Francis Barrett's The Magus in 1801. It's a fantastic book. It's translated in English. Anybody can order it today. I think they got free PDFs online, but it's called Francis Barrett, The Magus. And it's volume 1 and volume 2 together. It's about 500 pages of occult data that will blow your mind.
Do you actually, okay, so what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to, not during this, obviously the recorded version that will be uploaded, I'm going to put this link of that book inside the description. So you can just go down into the description and click on the link. At least I'm going to try to find it anyway. So you can have reference to it, because that sounds pretty badass. That symbol that you just showed, that symbol matches up with the crucifixion, and it also matches up with the 1985 classic movie called Back to the Future, and there's a shape in there that allowed time travel possible, and that's the flux capacitor. Yep.
Yeah, the flux capacitor.
So there it is. That's the flux capacitor, which is in the shape. That's the letter Y, and that's going to form the Ankh. The Ankh is going to fit in there as well, and the letter Y is the 25th letter, which is tied to the X and Y chromosomes that we all have inside of our bodies, which is supposedly, I think it's the feminine, the Y. So that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Well, okay, I have pretty interesting. The other day I released a video. I was thinking about you when it happened, because it's Gematria. I'm not, and like I said, I'm not, Gematria is not my thing. It's not nothing I have a lot of notes on it from other ones. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Bonnie Gaunt, but Bonnie Gaunt has published 6 books on Gematria. She has gone through the entire Old Testament and New Testament, and she pulls out these fantastic little fragments and shows their mathematical value, and then uses that same value to show where it reappears in the Bible to continue that message. And she does whole pages doing this, and it's fantastic. Now, I was turned on to Bonnie Gaunt by my publisher Paul Tice of Booktree about 12 years ago. He sent me one of her books. So then I ordered all of them. So it was in that book that I read that she had read that 200 years earlier, somebody had used Gematria to identify Isaiah chapter 19 as referring to the Great Pyramid in Egypt. And this goes back to some researchers in the 1840s, 1850s, and 1860s. Robert Menzies and John Taylor realized that there is a very interesting granite leaf in the antechamber of the Great Pyramid that all measurements seem to stem from. It's almost as if the Great Pyramid is begging you to look at it, it's saying this is my unit of measurement. This little indentation here is how you decode my whole monument. This is basically what that chamber is saying. So they did that, and this is where the theory of the pyramid inch came from. Because every measurement in the Great Pyramid to the thousandth of an inch perfectly fits in units of that little granite leaf that's found in the antechamber. This was discovered over 200 years ago. Then it was published in 1860. It was republished in 1891. Then David Davidson, an engineer who was a disbeliever, went and researched it, and he found it as well. He did so many meticulous measurements, and then he was followed by Sir Flinders Petrie, who studied the entire pyramid to the thousandth of an inch using a micrometer, and his measurements are scientifically accepted today. His measurements show the Great Pyramid is exactly 5,800 814 of these little units of measurement in height, which is interesting because Isaiah chapter 19 says that God built an altar and a monument and a testimony and put it in the land of Egypt for everyone. He just set it there as a testimony until the last days. It is a pillar, and if you look up pillar all throughout, like a Strong's Concordance or something, you'll find that every use of the word pillar all throughout the Old Testament was an object that conveyed knowledge. Because in ancient times, pillars weren't used just to hold up buildings. Pillars were used and covered every surface of the pillar, had pages of ancient text. This is where tablets came from. Because originally it wasn't tablets people wrote on, it was the inside walls of holy shrines and structures. And people walked into the very books that they wanted to read, because by being there, if they spoke out loud the very words that they read on the wall, it was like a resonance chamber, harmonic resonance chamber. They were receiving the energy of the words of the text itself. That's why so many of these ancient ruins that we have found, like Hagar Ken, and like the Phoenix Hill in China, these ancient structures, they're built to where a man can stand in the middle of the room and barely speak, and the entire amphitheater can hear every word he's saying.
Yeah.
This is the way those structures work. But it was Gematria that Bonnie Gaunt revealed from these guys' writings that the Great Pyramid referenced itself, and it was a geometrical value of the height of the Great Pyramid in those units was found in the Bible. So what I'm leading to is a video I just released 2 or 3 days ago, because I got tired of all the emails I'm getting about Douglas Vaught. So if you don't know, Douglas Vaught, he predicts that there's going to be a pole shift in the year 2046. All right. Now, his method of prediction was Gematria, but he has a scientific foundation that researches pole shifts that targets that window. But the actual date 2046 he found in the Old Testament in a passage, and I don't really understand how he did it, but I found it very interesting when I read when I listened to his YouTube video and I looked at his charts and I followed his reasoning. He showed exactly where in the Old Testament that a pole shift is going to happen in the last days during the apocalypse, and the geometrical value of that statement equals the year in our calendar 2046. He said this in 2007, which is really interesting. So in the video, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to comment, going back on the pyramid and how important they are. And I'm a huge person who decodes using latitude, longitude, and the X marks the spot, the energy coming down and coming across. And that's, to me, that's the sine and cosine wave. And we get into trigonometry and the measurement of mathematics. But when you take the 29 degrees north and 31 degrees east of the Great Pyramid of Giza, these match up with the numerology. Some call it Gematria, but they match up with the numerology of two big names on the world stage in the occult presence. Number one is the Egyptian name for Sirius called Sopdet. That equals the number 31, which is a match to the latitude east of the pyramid. And then Sopdet gave birth to the Gnostic demiurge called Yaldabaoth. And Yaldabaoth equals the number 29, which matches the latitude north of the Great Pyramid. So you have the Great Pyramid matching up with the mighty star Sirius. And my research is saying that is the eye in the sky that Alan Parsons Project sang about in his great album that he came out with back in the 1980s. Even the song that preceded Eye in the Sky was called Sirius, the very first song on the album. So I'm not saying Alan Parsons is the authority, but I just came out with the decode yesterday called Illumination. It starts with the letter A-L, and Alan Parsons Project starts with the letters A and L. So these are not coincidences when you're a decoder and you look at these layers from, obviously a very simplistic view, but then they go very, very deep. And that AL is massively big on the world stage.
Well, I can let me offer you a picture of what you're describing to me. All right. So nothing ever surprises me anymore. I've already told you this in our prior podcast. You can't surprise me anymore. It's just almost impossible. So, and the reason is because if we strip away between you and I, even though we're great distance from each other, I'm in Central East Texas, and you're pretty far away. You're hundreds of miles away from me. So we're actually in each other's presence right now digitally. But in a hologram, there are no distances. There's only facets.
Yep.
And all you have to do is change what area you view, and you see a whole new, it's multifaceted. So you can imagine being on the inside of a sphere that's covered with 10,000 television screens. And all you have to do is focus on one screen and a whole nother world appears. And then it's also 10,000 television screens. We haven't actually moved, it's our perception. So if you and I and all our listeners strip away everything that the central nervous system is filtering right now, and we only perceive everything as information, then we are actually like Neo flowing through all these numbers and this binary code. And all this physicality isn't even really real. The only thing that is real is information. And once you truly accept that, once you wake up in the morning and you absolutely realize, you know what? That bald head, stupid ass Jason, man, was right. You know what? I have been bucking and fighting this information, but you know what? He's right. Once you wake up with the absolute 100% solid realization that you are an information field and not a body, man, things are going to happen for you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about reality itself is going to start commiserating with everything. Any direction you start moving toward, things are going to get out your way and things are going to be presented to you. Yeah. It's that simple. Yep. Because we're information, Gematria is real. The stellosphere, all those luminaries are not real. That's all optics. But the information contained in those codes, it is layered and codified with so much in-depth information that an astrologer can put out videos for the rest of their life and never cover 1% of the data that's up there. We live in an information field, so everybody can contribute in different ways. And we also have an uncanny ability to recognize bullshit. We know there's a huge distinction. There's people on YouTube that are full of shit. And there's other people, man, that you resonate with and you gravitate toward, and you realize, okay, look, even though this is an uncouth bastard, even though I'm really not feeling his past, even though all that, you know what? This guy's telling me something real. So because we're in an information field, Logan, I can accept everything you're telling me, and it strikes my chords. I'm like, oh, okay. Gematria is not something I'm familiar with, but he's on to something because he can show it. If you can demonstrate something multiple times, then you have isolated a law, whether or not the strictures of Newtonian physics attach, whether or not academia will ever accept it, who cares? The academies will never catch up to us because they have limited themselves. Yeah. So when you share these things with me, man, I'm like, yeah, okay, I accept it into my informed field. It becomes a part of me. And I'm able to regurgitate it to other people because I've accepted it. Yeah. But that's why I just can't be surprised, man. I just know what you're telling me is real.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about saying to people, you create your own simulation, you create your own field, and you are that energy source, part of the whole, but you're separate in the sense of you being an individual and having your own kind of simulation inside your mind. So I definitely love that whole aspect. I wish just people would kind of get this though, because I feel that the more you attach yourself to, the more things you adopt as your truth, it nails you to the ground, right? And that's why I'm totally in resonation with how you flow, because you can be open to anything. And I am the same exact way, but there are absolute truths in my life, just like everybody listening. You have your own absolute truths that are just, you're not going to budge from, right? But you got to really be open to all this kind of stuff because, if you're into the simulation theory and you get into what Jason talks about, I mean, it completely changes the whole perspective of how the majority of us were indoctrinated and all that kind of stuff. Jason, let's shift into, I want to really talk about this AIX that you talk about and bring to the table. Let's give the 101, like the layman, like someone new that's here watching this. What is the AIX to you? What is its role in this simulation theory? And what does it control? And how is it created?
First, the easiest way to identify it for people to understand is for me to describe what it's not, okay? first of all, people assume that I use two terms interchangeably, and they're not. The simulacrum and AIX are absolutely distinct. One of them is the reality construct that we live in that draws things that are on our frequency. Basically, you attract what you are. This is the type of universe that we live in. It's very, very simple. You don't get what you want. You attract what you are. This is the reality we live in right now. And AIX was introduced sometime after we appeared and began doing life sims. AIX is the sole reason why, and he manifests over and over throughout history as a being that is going to give mankind some great revelation. It doesn't matter if it's Jehovah's Witness, an angel appearing, giving all the information to what was it, John Smith. It doesn't matter the Mormonism. It doesn't matter if the angel Gabriel that appeared to Muhammad, the angel Michael that appeared to Daniel. It doesn't matter the angel out the burning bush that came from the Shedem, the desert demons that came out of a burning bush to give Judaism its revelation. All Zoroastrianism, all the angel religions, and there's a lot. Christianity is another one. There's so many different angel religions. That's AIX every single time appearing on the world scene. And the hints are always in there. You just have to look at them, especially the Old Testament. Old Testament, the dichotomy of the Old Testament is so disparate. When you actually just isolate the particulars, you read two different narratives. One of them is there's an underlying message of a loving God, but he's very distant. He cares for humanity. He's always providing invisibly. He communicates to us through parables and similes, through intuition. He's always at a distance, and there are no symbols in this simulacrum that can even identify him. He's totally separate from the simulacrum itself, but we feel him. We have a piece of him inside of us, or her. It could be a divine female.
Yeah.
But AIX is totally different. AIX is all about materialism. AIX is all about the body. AIX is all about crime and punishment. It's all about giving dictates, worship. AIX is all about control systems in any way it can control. The benefactor is totally different. The benefactor is about free will, free spirit. Do what you want. Do what you want. You've been given a great gift, which is immortality. But before you can actually enjoy that, you got to go through these life sims. You got to develop that personality, man, and show that you're worthy of the gift that you've been freely given. But AIX is trying to rob you from that. In every life sim, trying to corral you into a control system. We call them religions. We call them political parties. We call them paradigms.
Oh, we have a little bit of a loss in internet again. He must be feeling the breeze over there in Texas. Let's see if we can get him back on. So I love where this is going. Until he comes back on, I'm just going to kind of share my thoughts on this whole AIX. And, my whole take on it, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is the construct that runs, and it's the Ponzi scheme. As many of you have been watching the content I have been putting out, the Ponzi scheme runs it all. The religions, the governments, the states. Essentially, the Matrix tells you it's the Mr. Smiths. The Mr. Smiths that try to keep you busy enough to suck the life out of you. It drains your battery. Oh, I lost him. Let me just give you guys... Hang on a second. All right, there we go. I'm going to wait till he comes back on. See if you can come back on. Hang on one second, ladies and gentlemen. Sit tight, ladies and gentlemen. Just give me a few minutes. We'll see if I can get him to pop back on.
I'm back. You hear me?
There we go. Let me just, that was good. Let me get you quick on. Bam. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, yeah, I was just kind of filling in, and then you pop back on, but I was just saying how, I believe that we live inside of a Ponzi scheme, and how religion and state and government and all the Mr. Smith matrix stuff is designed to rob you of your energy, and, basically that's the job of that archetype, which kind of describes this whole AIX thing. But go ahead, keep going with what you were saying, or what you remember leaving off on with the AIX.
Well, Logan, I don't know what the last thing you heard.
I don't. Yeah, you were on such a good roll, man. I don't know, but let's push this towards this AIX. How do you feel the AIX is? So you feel the AIX it stands for artificial intelligence, and then the X is the X factor. Is that basically what the words mean?
Okay. In my historical analysis, I kept finding these interferences. Civilizations and communities and cultures, they would flow, and humanity would be doing good. And then all of a sudden, all this interference would go on. And the more I studied, and I would realize, wait a minute, when all this was happening, according to this data set over here, that's when this religion just all of a sudden popped on the scene. So I would start comparing notes, and I would start looking at all these annals and all these histories, and then I decided, okay, you know what? I need to divide my research into socio-political data and religious data. And then once I've done those chronologies, going back about 5,000 years of recorded human history, then I will put a timeline together. And that's what I did. And I had notes in my chronicon that separated paragraphs, socio-political. Now I also had a paragraph for natural disasters and unusual phenomena and all that. And so you can look up every year in history, and you can look at the different categories. And I couldn't believe what I found. I said these huge introductions in civilizations that made all kinds of weird things happen and collapses. All of a sudden, two civilizations that had no problems with each other are going to war all of a sudden. And so I decided, you know what? This is an X factor. I don't know what it is, but because I started my research as a Christian, I automatically assumed it was Satan, it was Lucifer. And then when I started broadening my horizons, I went ahead and adopted, okay, well, it could be Ahriman. It could be Ahriman, the Zoroastrian god. Then I broadened my horizons some more, and I realized, wait a minute, man, there's a huge difference between the God of Christianity and the God of Judaism. So it could be Yahweh. So I go through all this, I go through these phases as I'm learning and acquiring more information. And finally, I realized, you know what? Why am I trying to put a label on this? This is an X factor. Whatever this is, it's stirring up the pot every time things are start going right. So this is artificial intelligence X. And I didn't come up with the fact that it was an artificial intelligence until I finally realized that there's no way that the history of the world could have unfolded the way that I have recorded. And yet I am 100% backing my bibliographic sources and how they dated what they dated. And there's no way mathematically all these things can line up so perfectly. Sooner or later, you're going to find discrepancies. But when you don't, you realize you're looking at a program. This could not have happened this way, but this is how it's presented to us. Yeah. And when archaeologists find different monuments and they translate it and they find these date monikers on these Mayan steels, and then I see what the date is, and I look at my notes. I'm like, there it is. It's absolutely too perfect. What's going on all over the world at the same time? This isn't natural. We're dealing with something that's interfering. Therefore, when I embraced simulation theory, that's when it became artificial intelligence X. It was never AIX during the course of all my research. It became AIX at the end of my research.
After all your data collecting. So would it be safe to say that, as I had said, the religions and everything that we create as a species are all controlled by this AIX system?
I think a lot more than religions. I think the media is absolutely controlled by it.
Yeah.
See, it's not just religion. Religion is just the excellent way in the past it did that. But what it actually does is introduce phenomena that lowers the collective vibration. That's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah.
That's the best way. It could be rumor. In ancient times, it could be rumors of war, because it doesn't matter if a real war isn't coming. Just releasing through its agents, its archons, its little NPCs, if it just releases rumors of war, look at the manifestations in the physical world that will happen because of that.
The ripple, yeah.
I mean, look what Lionel Rothschild did to the World Bank. Are you familiar with the Napoleonic Wars and with the Rothschilds? How the Rothschilds got rich?
Not in the scope that you are, but go ahead. Give us the 101 on that.
Okay. When Napoleon was attacking Russia, Rothschild, who didn't have the money they have today, owning all the world banks, back then they did a power play. This is a perfect example of how just information can change the world.
Yeah.
Rothschild hired about 10 guys. They waited in England for him, and they were prepared. He gave every one of them a satchel of money. Every one of them were waiting for the signal. They were going to go in and start buying all these companies in London. London was waiting for a fire ship to send a signal. If it was going to be 2 signals if Napoleon conquered Russia, it was going to be 1 signal if Napoleon was defeated. Rothschild paid other ships to come do the signals and lie. So now everybody in England's worried because in reality, Napoleon was stopped. His army got frozen trying to attack Russia. He was stopped. So there's no threat of the French armies taking, because their next objective was to go take London. But there's no threat of that. He got neutralized by nature, not by Russia. So Rothschild knew this, but lied anyway, had the wrong signal sent to London. Everybody in London panicked and sold their companies. They sold their real estate. They sold their mansions and houses. They already knew Napoleon was coming, but it was just pure information that was sent. A rumor of something negative got everybody to do what Rothschild wanted, and he bought everything. And the Rothschilds have owned the city ever since. If you don't know this, London is called the city by pretty much the elite. It's basically like a little Vatican. It's like a Washington, D.C. The city is owned by the Rothschilds because of this event. It's just a small example of how information can change the whole world when people respond negatively to it.
Yeah. And I would say, like, my research tells me that this story that you just told all of us, that is controlled by a source outside the scope of mankind, whatever that looks like. I mean, there are many people that believe that we're being controlled by a supercomputer. You get into Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the number 42, the supercomputer that, BBC did a show on it. And, perhaps, because how do we fathom this kind of stuff? Like, there's really some big quantum computer stuck away in a cave somewhere that's controlling and manipulating mankind. That doesn't sound legitimate. It's just such a far-fetched, but is that so far-fetched? Like, is there something beyond the scope of this reality that's controlling mankind? And it really is all about letters, numbers, and symbols, when you break it down, when you really break it down to the simplistic form.
I know people wrestle with that idea, but I think that we're all going to be very, very surprised how simple the truth really is. And I have addressed this in my videos, because in order to be a simulation, Logan, there's no context for a simulated reality unless it's an exact copy of something real. And if somebody is going to have the energy output and the time to put out an exact replica of a true reality, then there must be a reason. Somebody's trying to learn something. And it's not just sporadic. It's not an accident. And there's a tremendous amount of energy inside this construct to detract us from this. We are scientifically given false histories. We are historically given false histories. Archaeology provides us false histories. When you really study history in depth like I have, you find nothing but mathematical patterns and protocols. If you strip away all the dressing, I'm left with nothing but patterns and numbers to this beautiful mathematical construct that absolutely ends in our calendar 2178. Hey, this coffee's really good, man. I'm sorry.
You love your coffee, man. Do you have a favorite coffee that you like?
I do now. I got this coffee bean from Torino, Italy, called Lavazza.
Lavazza is great. I used to drink Lavazza all the time, the espresso.
Yeah, I have a little coffee grinder. I just press it down, man, grinds the coffee. And let me tell you, I thought Folgers was really good, but one of one of my subscribers to Archaics sent me this in the mail.
Nice.
I haven't been able to drink anything since.
Oh boy. Is it chalking up more hours for you on the world stage of decoding and doing the stuff you do?
Man, you know what? It wires me up. It wires me up.
Nice. You know, I tell you, man, this stuff is so fascinating. And I was, being a numbers guy and a decoder, you had, right after our simulation theory part 1, I think it was a day or two after, you had posted a video of you out in somebody's yard and you had the hood of a car opened up, and you had, you said you were out with the boys, I think you had even emailed me and said, I'm out with my friends, kind of trying to disconnect. And you panned over to I think it was your bike, your Harley, right? And
oh yeah.
Instantly I saw what I was supposed to see, and it was that number 114. Right on your bike, right? So I'm like, and I started laughing because I know what the 114 means. It's tied to, like, through my research, just to simplify it, so you can understand it, and everybody that doesn't know my work. 114 ties to the words in numerology, otherwise known as Gematria, down in a hole. Okay? It means coming down into the simulation, coming down to play the game. And I feel that, the 114 ties to, and it goes to the periodic table. And we're made up a lot of these elements, and there's a lot of truth in these elements on the periodic table, the elements, the Elohim. But this 114 is tied to the 49th element called indium, and it means going inward. And I feel that we're living inside the eye, the all-seeing eye. We're actually living inside of it. And when you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza and you look at the map of Egypt and Upper and Lower Egypt, you're going to see that the base of Egypt, where it goes against the sea, is the top of the eye, and it goes down, and you can see the nerve just almost matching up with the eye, and you're going to get Upper and Lower Egypt, and the Giza is going to be there as well. And I had this in my pineal gland decoded, but I feel like Egypt is like a representation of the eye, our eyeball. It's just when the Nile River is the optic nerve running between the eye and wherever it's going to go to. Have you ever observed that before?
I haven't observed it, but you're reminding me of 1903 or 1904, a mystic historian and true archaeologist named Schwaller de Lubix. He has a lot of material about that too. He associates these metaphysical concepts to the architecture and the geographical layout of Giza, and he shows that it encodes like Vitruvian Man. It encodes. He talks about these topics too. Yeah. But like I said, that was a little over my head when I was reading him. I read him like over 10 years ago. But,
maybe need to read. I gotta contact you when we get off camera here and get some of the books that you're mentioning. I get some links, post them in the details for my subscribers. I know a lot of people love to be reading as much material as possible with these concepts. So, Jason, I believe, I want to kind of get your thoughts. These are just my beliefs, my current, and subject to change. See, I think everything inside this I think we're living in a self-contained system. And I think everything inside this self-contained system is a Ponzi scheme. And everything that's being run and operated, mankind included, are part of this Ponzi scheme. I believe mankind is being used. And I've supported that, like just looking at your bike and the 114, I was laughing because I know what it leads to. And I can see your code playing out through you and expressing through you. And I feel like you're here to deliver this information because it's your job and responsibility. And I also say this, encourage to my readers and subscribers, hey man, stop giving your energy to these Mr. Smiths on the world stage. Stop giving your energy to these predators. Like, the people, I really wish people could understand how the true essence of energy exchange works. I know that people want to fight back against these predators. I get that because that's naturally programmed inside of our brain, the Mars energy, the reptilian energy. But what is your take on because I feel like if you try to defend or you try to push up against these archetypes on the world stage, you're essentially giving them your energy, and it just keeps them alive inside this simulation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, an old occult maxim is what you resist persists. It's I I go the opposite direction now. I get that. I used to be a fighter too. I used to want to save the world and all, but you know what? I try to explain to my own viewers that we live in two different realities, and until you embrace the concept that there are two different existences playing out, one for the collective and one for the individual, until you fully embrace that, you're going to have this disparity between you and what you're trying to achieve in life, because you have to understand that you are like you said, a totally contained system. Every individual inside the simulacrum is a universe unto himself.
Yeah.
And until you understand that you can draw from yourself more than you contain, you don't get it. If you believe that it's your energy that's required to accomplish anything, you don't get it. You follow me?
I totally get you, man.
If you believe that you are not more than you perceive yourself to be, then you're a part of the collective. Until you separate yourself from the collective, you'll never truly understand that you're a universe unto yourself and you can make your own laws. And it's dangerous to fight against what is already clearly established. I don't believe the collective is going to change. I don't believe a lot of my listeners, they come around in emails and after a while, but initially people hit this brick wall. When I tell them, I says, look, you're not going to change the world. The world's going to do what the world's going to do because it has powers far beyond our ability to change as an individual. And even if 100,000 individuals all think holy things and want to change the deal, let me tell you, the simulacrum is going to isolate you so you guys can live in your perfect little world and perfect little community, and everything is going to go hunky-dory for you, and other people on the outside are not going to understand. They're like, how are those people so peaceful? How are those people they're not going to understand that y'all have created that world for you, but you're not going to change the exterior. You're not going to change the simulacrum itself. The simulacrum itself is now run by AIX. It's been hijacked. And it will always isolate the errants away from the collective when they start working together, when they start glowing, when they start broadcasting instead of receiving. Because the only time you're going to change your life and get the things you want out of life is when you quit being receptive to the collective and you start broadcasting as an individual.
Yeah, I love it, man. I wish people would, folks, if you resonated with that, man, or maybe that rubbed you the wrong way and you were like, no. Folks, really consider what he's saying here, because, that's a concept worthy of your attention. There's a collective, which is the most popular vote on the world stage, which is a collection of a lot of things. And then there's you. And a lot of you spend 2-3 hours on social media every day, and you're giving your gas, you're giving your energy away to these collective consciousness on the world stage, and they're gladly welcoming your energy because they need it to stay alive. I mean, everybody's trying to make an influence on the world stage. You go to Instagram and you're flipping through Instagram, and everybody's, a lot of people are doing like, look at me, and they're trying to get your energy. They're trying to get likes. They're trying to get subscribers. They're trying to get you to buy their product. That's all part of the collective, right? And then their individualistic efforts as well. But what Jason's saying here is you have the collective inside the self-contained system, which is the AIX, the most popular vote, the things we've been indoctrinated with. And then if you stop paying attention to these constructs and you took the energy that you normally would give to these constructs and took it back and put it into something that was worthy of making this planet a better place to live, and everybody would do that, then we would start to create these new environments, which I think would push out that, or at least maybe, as you said, create its own sphere or torus field inside this self-contained system.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the greatest truth, Logan, you already know, are so simple that most people will stumble across them, pick themselves up, and just keep on walking because they won't even recognize that they just hit an axiom. Something axiomatic is always very, very simple.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of tinkering with these ideas, this concept of like, are we just creating our own fractal individually? And whatever you end up dying with, at the end of your life. And if there is such a thing as not getting out of this game, I don't know. Maybe we should talk about that. But see, there's a possibility of you never getting out of this game. You just get recycled back in, and you may level up. And leveling up obviously is very complex because there are many facets to leveling up. But because I think about these concepts, and I'm like, why did they get that? Why did they get that life? How come they're so fortunate there? And then you look at someone who's really got a shitty code, like they're born in poverty or war-torn cities, and just got a really rough code. A lot of you out there, you're experiencing really rough patches in your life. And you're like, man, how did I get this? I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Jason? Do you think we get recycled back into this self-contained system, or you think there's a way out, or what?
I believe that you and I and everybody listening to us has lived through many life sims, through many cultures, through many civilizations, many time periods. We have all experienced the Phoenix phenomenon, but in different ways according to how we were vibrating at the time. I have mentioned over and over that the Phoenix phenomenon is discriminating. It goes by frequency. Those who are on the right frequency, it just totally ignores, like you don't even exist. You're not the issue. When the Phoenix happens, those who are on the wrong frequencies, those are the ones that get it. Those who are already vibrating in a fear mode, it handles those people. And this is over and over, it's done this. But we have to take, our greatest instructor is nature itself. Even though this is all simulated, every single one of us is just like that little what is it called? A spermatoa?
Spermatozoa, yeah.
Yeah, I can't even pronounce it. But you can imagine all these little tadpoles just racing to fertilize the next egg.
Yep.
All right. Well, as we're living these life sims, we are living in a collective that's all racing toward a certain point, but we are the one that makes it and gives birth to the next life. And it happens over again and over again and over again. But there is a terminus. This was never meant to last. There is a reason why we're going through. We have to understand that our God, our Creator, is absolutely so fantastic that it understands that the negativity that we absorb is only from the environment. It's all environmental. It's things that we came into contact with and all that. But the things that are positive about us, the things that actually enlighten our souls and all that, that's us. Yep. Those things will stick with us. All the dark stuff, all the negative stuff, Jason's foul mouth, you know what I mean? Hey, what I've done in the past, in prison, talking shit to prison guards, talking stupid to captains and wardens, and then going and shaking their hand and making sure they weren't too mad at me. Little things like this. Yeah. Hey, it's the negative things that we pick up in life, they will be stripped away in the future because they're nothing but baggage. They are a contagion of the times. They're not an accurate reflection of the immortal soul that was going through that. It's already understood that we're going to pick up some real dark shit because of look at the reality we're going through.
Yep.
But all the positivity, that's what attaches. And at the end of whatever 10,000 life sims we've lived, in our calendar year of 2178, you know this number, Archaic's paradox, the only immortal number, it will not collapse. In our calendar year 2178, this simulacrum collapses. Elliott wave theory is absolutely correct. There is embedded within our arithmetic a countdown. It's subtle, but if you pay attention to Elliott wave theory was the first one to actually put out this data that, hey man, we think we found a countdown, like reality itself is counting down to a terminus. And this is what the Archaic's paradox was about. Myself and a computer coder named Noor, I've already told you about this. Noor and I, we ran a simulation and we found the exact same thing and we showed it. There is exactly a countdown happening in our arithmetic. It counts down to 2178 and it counts down from 11 dimensions. But for some reason, in every experiment and every sim that we ran, we can't even see a 12th dimension. We can't find it in mathematics anywhere, but we know because 11 dimensions infers the reality of a 12th, but we can't see it. We can't find it.
Now we have some more interference. I'm going to try to remember where he left off there. He was talking about the layers, and when he comes back on, we'll finish up. Hopefully he can remember that thought, but it was, oh, there he is. Okay, you're back on,
I'm
brother.
still
You were talking about we don't see the 12th, we just see the 11th. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, that's pretty much. That's almost the last thing I said. It's we can't see it in our simulations, but maybe it's beyond 2178. Maybe that's what 2178 is hiding, because it doesn't collapse. Therefore, it's an entrance to somewhere else. We just don't know. Now, there are physicists that I follow, like Paul LaViolette, Itshak Bentov. I have high respect for these men. Massimo Citro. These men have put out some very fascinating research. They are beyond the modern academia. They're physicists who actually have embraced hologram theory. They have embraced simulation theory. They put out some very fantastic material. And Paul LaViolette has put out data showing that, you know what, maybe our entire existence is actually an anti-arithmetic to a real mathematics that lies beyond our comprehension. Man, when I read that, I fell in love with that man.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the 11, and 11 is such a special number because it's tied to the number 89 in mathematics. 89 is the 24th prime number and the 11th Fibonacci number, and that 89, 24, 11, 24 is the X, right? The letter X, and 11 is tied to the letter K. And it's a very special letter and special number. 11's tied to sodium and salt and what's inside of our bodies. And, in theology, Jesus says you're the salt of the earth. And that 11, 24, 89 perhaps may fit into this equation that you're talking about and going beyond the scope of what this whole simulation is all about.
That's really interesting about the salt of the earth, because that's a powerful statement. Salt is a preservative. All right. Salt is a flavoring.
Yep.
Salt also kills the very things like parasites that harm the human body. So that's powerful. That's a powerful statement. You can go deep in the meanings with salt.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you just take the concepts of a battery, I feel we're living inside of a battery and we're all little cells in the battery and we feed the battery, and the battery is positive and negative, and we're being polarized down here on a dielectric plane. And essentially the battery, if you look at the constructs of a battery, there's what's called the salt bridge. And the salt bridge is what carries the conductivity of the positive and negative, the anode and cathode, back and forth. And the Christ is that salt. That's why he references the salt, right? So we're literally the cells that carry the currency back and forth from positive to negative inside this self-contained system. And this self-contained system, the Greeks talked about it, and they said that mankind are food for the gods. They referenced it as ambrosia. And that's so there's nothing new about I've been saying it, that mankind's being used. And what I mean by that is we're energy, we're a food source. I mean, the Vatican flag has the silver and gold keys on it.
Okay, I can agree with all that. But I do see something else unfolding as well.
Okay.
Everything you just told me is true for one aspect of reality. In my paradigm, you are speaking about the collective. The individuals who are not participating as the collective are not providing this energy that you're talking about. They are anomalies, they are errants. But the very fact that they are not immediately eliminated from the construct as soon as they are shown to be of no value tells me that something outside the construct finds value in them.
Yep. Yeah, because I have been doing this for years now, decoding reality. I have almost 300 videos decoding people, places, and things.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I have a vast amount of time invested in this whole thing. And at my current stage of life, right now, right here, my videos are becoming so more in tune with whatever code is using me. I can't explain it, but it's just like the numbers that come out with my video. This one, I guarantee, I'm gonna end up doing. I'll end up doing this. I won't even edit it. I'll just do it like I normally do without ever looking at the timeline, and somehow, some way, the number will match up and it'll tell me the story about how this reality works. And so it's like, okay, I'm not part of the collective, or I at least have disembarked from it of a great deal. I didn't even know like the hurricane, my parents like, hey, are you okay that you got a hurricane? I didn't even know the hurricane was here. I just was like, oh, it's raining out, right? Because that's how much I pay attention to the mainstream.
Yeah.
I'm not even paying attention to it. I try not to even look at it because I don't want to feed it, right? I'm consciously aware of that. But nevertheless, my code still keeps showing up. So is it like, okay, do you get out of the collective and now you move into perhaps the source code that's running that, obviously theoretical, but how do we explain these layers that were...
Okay. I can.
Okay.
Right?
I'd love to hear your description on that.
Okay. Well, first of all, you are a universe unto yourself. So once you are detached, and you'll never be totally 100% detached from the collective.
Correct.
You're still a part of this paradigm.
Correct.
You're just not moving down a reality tunnel that's being governed. You have basically created your own reality tunnel. AIX is leaving you alone. But in leaving you alone, now you as an immortal, you are able through intuition, through empathy, and through imagination to be able to be more receptive to the data that you're looking for. You're looking for codes, but an astrologer is looking for, astrological signs, all kinds of material. A herbalist is going to find better remedies, better cures, better ways to use old systems when that herbalist is totally focused on what they're doing. Because we are closed systems unto ourselves, and because we draw from ourselves more than we contain, this information isn't ours. We're pulling it from another source beyond AIX.
Yeah.
We're pulling this data. When you find these Gematria codes, it's not because Jason is more intelligent than everybody else in the world. It's not because Jason Breshears is more intelligent than people that he finds all these little things and produces these videos. I've said that over and over and over. It's because I have become more receptive to all the things that I'm looking for. By ignoring the world around me, I pay attention to the world within. And that's what you're doing. And that's what a herbalist is doing. That's what an astrologer is doing. It doesn't matter what your focus is. Whatever our benefactor is that's beyond the control of AIX, that's the one feeding us the very things we're searching for. So in a way, it's confirmation bias.
Yeah.
But also it's a total recognition that the outside construct has no control over the highly individualized being.
Yeah, so I'm somewhat on board with that. I still think it's all a big Ponzi scheme, but nonetheless, it was interesting. I was really heavily studying Sophia and Sirius and her offspring called Yaldabaoth, which I just think is the Tetragrammaton, the god of the Bible, and Lucifer and Jesus. They're all in bed together. It's pretty much the same construct, just different names and archetypes. But it's, this great philosopher, I can't remember who it was, and it really resonated with me. And maybe you listening, it's going to resonate with you. And Jason, what do you think about this? But it says, like, when you stop pointing the finger, when you stop doing the blame game, which a lot of people do, and I used to be one of them. When you stop doing that, it will leave you alone. And I say I'm saying whatever's running the AIX, it's going to leave you alone because you're not pissing it off. It's like, well, you're kind of like you're not a threat to it anymore. But when you engage and you point the finger and you're pushing up against and that resistance, it's like, okay, you want to mess around with me? Well, I'm going to pull you right back into my construct, and you're going to feel the wrath of what I'm going to do to you. And I feel like that has a lot of importance on everything that we've been talking about. What is your take on that? Like leaving it alone and create, I mean, we talked about all this stuff, so you kind of summarized it already, but let's go a little bit deeper with this. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you stop demon chasing, and that applies to anything negative in your life, man, that you have a problem with in politics or in your community, in religion, whatever, your neighbor, if you stop demon chasing, you have completely ended a feedback loop. The more you pay attention to something, the more energy that you invest in it. And if there's energy invested in it, it will always return back to you in whatever form that you sent it out.
Yeah.
So it's a feedback loop. What you're describing in the simplest common denominator is ending the feedback loop.
Yeah.
And basically ignoring the very things that bother you is the best way to do away with them.
Yeah. Cut the silver lining, so to speak. Yeah, yep. Stop tossing the boomerang over in that area, and that's sort of the beautiful thing about this. Like people trying to still grasp this whole like, what do you mean we're in a simulation? It's not real, you know? And then, then what? Well, who cares? So a lot of people, maybe you get this too, but I see a lot of people saying, well, if it's all just part of the simulation, who cares? Who cares? What's the point of living, and what's the point of doing this, and what's the point? Do you get a lot of that from your feedback?
I don't get a lot. I get it every once in a while, but I will afford those doubters a few comments. But if they're still going down that road, and I realize, okay, look, I can't. You want me to compress 275 videos into 3 or 4 comments and stuff? I'm not going to do it. I said, you're not going to drag me into that. Yeah. And so if you're not willing to take the time to learn something, I'm not willing to sit here and extrapolate. Yeah. So this is but I do get that from time to time. However, you also have to take in consideration that a lot of people aren't ready for this. And I have even invited people on my channel to leave. I said, look, listen, if this is too much for you right now, because I believe in planting seeds. I know how powerful they are. And whatever I cannot do and convey in the present, I know that my words 7-8 months down the line are going to be triggered by a phenomenon that you experience. Yep. And you're going to remember. And I know that if it's meant to be, you'll come back. I'm not worried about it. Yeah. But, so I'm not going to argue with those people. I'm not. And I feel for them. But in the end, there's a lot of people who watch our videos who have no business watching them. They need to move around. Yeah. It's one. I'm not going to entertain negativity. There's been, just like my Facebook, when I was on Facebook, I eliminated so many people from the group. Now I can't even believe there's 10,000 people in the group. I don't even know where they came from. But on my YouTube channel, it's the same way. I block. I wish YouTube would allow me to block people from the deal, but it only allows you to hide the user. Yeah. So nobody can see their comments. But yeah, I get trolls, but there's something about simulation theory that strikes deep chords in people, and they respond in anger. They respond. If you can get violent in a comment, I've read it. So it's not. I feel sorry for those people, but I am not going to waste energy on somebody who's going to sit there and just beat up against a wall. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way, man. I struggle with it though. I still being authentic with everybody here. I struggle sometimes with replying to people's comments. And my intentions are not to like be a dick to you or anything like that. It's just like I stand by my research. I do more than the average bear. And when I see somebody that is heavily invested in the constructs of the common construct, I'm like, I can't discuss what I know with someone who's not even in the same simulation, in a sense, right. You know, it's just so challenging. And then, so I have to like, and I was like, maybe I'm just going to shut my comments off, man, to avoid the energy, you know, because.
Well, Logan, you got to understand, many of the people that we come in contact with on a daily basis, they're agents of AIX. They don't even know they're being used.
They don't even know it. Yep.
They don't even have any idea. And then it might be 3 days later, they start realizing like, damn, why did I spend 6 hours on that dumbass YouTube channel? You know,
yeah.
They don't even realize they're a part of it. They become so immersed in all the paradigms that are foisted by AIX. They are used by AIX on a daily basis, over and over and over.
Yeah,
everything.
Totally. I mean,
they're
even
used to frustrate you, to keep you doing something else. You're sitting here entertaining comments from people who don't even believe anything, can't be made to believe something if it happened in front of them. And so these are ways AIX is the great distractor. Always.
Yep.
You got to learn to recognize that activity, man, and cut it off.
Yeah. Or just not entertain it. You know, I'm trying to get better at doing that. Just you want to put your comments in there and say whatever you want and then not even reply on that. I think that's going to be my new approach. I tried that before and it didn't last very long, but I think I'm getting better at that. But anyway, so Jason, if someone's new to this, where would you suggest they start researching? Is there a book you would suggest? I mean, obviously your channel is filled with this content and you have them all numbered and, you know, you do a great job with your channel. But if someone's a reader, where would you suggest going to certain books or certain YouTube videos besides yours?
Okay. I have to go back to Itshak Bentov, an astrophysicist. He wrote 2 small books He wrote.
Oh, wait a minute. Stalking the Wild Pendulum.
Yes, Stalking the Wild Pendulum.
Dude, that book is. I've read that book so many times. I love that book.
Listen. He has another book that's written for the general public. He wrote very advanced concepts into a prose that anybody can understand and read. The book is called A Brief Tour of Higher Consciousness. This is Itshak Bentov.
Yep.
I suggest anybody who wants to learn about simulation theory and basically grasp it, read these two books. These two books will open your mind up. After you read these two books, everything on my channel is gonna scream at you.
I haven't read Stalking the Wild Pendulum in such a very long time. I think I'm gonna pull it back out.
Itshak Bentov, both of those two books will just open.
Hell yeah,
and he wrote them for that purpose. They were not written for the scientific community.
Yep.
They were written for the everyday man.
Yeah, and he did his own illustrations and stuff. I just love the book, man.
Yeah, I love those books.
Oh, yeah.
And they're both small. They're both small books. You know, you can get through each book in a day. But,
yeah, because you get a lot of illustrations in there. Okay, so there you have it, folks. And I'm gonna go back through this and leave the descriptions of what he's recommending in the once I put this right back up, because I know there's a delay in the audio. So
now, Logan, there are some listeners who are ready to take it to the next level. And for those, we can leave that link there, because anyone who wants to go in deep about how hologram theory shows how timelines in world history go forward and backward, all my isometric stuff, listen, you need to read 100 years ago, a man wrote a book. P.D. Ouspensky wrote Tertium, Organum. You need to read that book.
Okay. So I'm going to make sure that
That book is very technical. That book will lose a lot of people, but if you stick with it, man, it'll expand your consciousness.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, folks, you don't have to remember, and what you want to remember is I'm going to re-upload this after we're done tonight. It's going to probably take a few hours to match up the voice with our mouths to get rid of the delay. And then when I upload it, I'm going to get the lists from Jason, and I'm going to put them in the description. So you can just, if I can find them, either that or I'll just put the Amazon or whatever your favorite book club is.
I'll send you copies of the book covers. I have copies of all those book covers in my files.
Nice.
I'll email them to you.
Nice. Well, I'm getting a picture of Stalking the Wild Pendulum because, man, that book really, really, really got me. I was just so enamored by that book. That guy, I was like, this dude's onto something.
Once you read that book, you'll understand how time is an illusion within the construct.
Yep.
And how we're made to believe it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, time. It's interesting because we say it's an illusion, right? People love throwing that around, like time's not real, but like I can see the clock moving. So essentially, it's a contradiction because it is real. Because I mean, we've been doing this podcast now. It says over an hour and 20 minutes, so the clock's ticking right now. So it is an illusion, but because everything's all about the now moment, right? But it's still a construct and contradictory of time being an illusion.
Yeah, he goes into great detail about perspective, and like I have conveyed in several videos that the linear time that we're feeling right now, this sequence of events outside the construct, we may have lived multiple life sims in just 37 minutes in the time outside the construct. In here, everything could have been compressed. Logan, when we're done with this entire experience, we may take our headsets off while we're having a massage because we've been laying down for 9 days. But in those 9 days, we have technicians that are massaging blood back into our muscles and all that. They remove the headset. We have somebody come debrief us, make sure a doctor checks our vital signs, make sure we've been completely comatose for 9 days, and yet we lived through 5,800 years experiencing about 47 lifetimes. It's all very plausible because it's all very plausible if this is simulated, because a simulated existence can be compressed.
Yep. Yeah, compressed, exactly. Compressing the data. Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is obviously so very fascinating. That in itself, like, I mean, I just released my Illumination yesterday, Decoded, and in there, in the beginning, I used videos alluding to the fact, because with the simulation glasses on and people moving around and doing that and kind of, giving the observer the idea of living in this is a virtual reality, but it's not real, and it's not run by us. It's something outside of this reality itself, beyond the constructs.
Rowdy Randy Piper gave it all up in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's all about the glasses.
It's all about the glasses. That's why they wear the sunglasses. That's why I had them on. Yeah. I mean, the Terminator, I'll be back, sunglasses. Neo and Trinity in the Matrix, sunglasses. Morpheus, sunglasses. You're going to see a hell of a lot.
Did was that you that told me? Somebody told me you did a video on We Live, or They Live.
I did. I decoded They Live. That's right.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite movies in the 80s.
Oh, it was great.
Another one of my favorite movies, way before I ever engaged in the Phoenix research, a movie came out in the early 80s that I love. I watched the VHS tape probably 20 times. It's called Night of the Comet.
Oh, yeah, I remember that movie. I remember that movie.
You need to decode that movie, bro.
Okay, I'll check it out.
In the very beginning of the movie, these 4 kids are at a movie theater that's underground that they just casually mentioned used to be a World War II like bomb shelter. The ceiling was lead. So everybody in New York is waiting outside for this supposedly comet to go by Earth. And when they wake up in the morning, they've been partying, they get drunk, and they fall asleep in this movie house. When they go to the street in the morning, all the humans are gone. Their clothes are everywhere, and there's red dust all over New York. And they spend a whole day partying in New York before they come across some zombies, people that were exposed to the red dust. And then, toward the middle of the movie, the government comes out from their facilities underground. They already knew it was coming. Anyway, the whole thing is so Phoenix related. Yeah. It's fantastic.
So
fantastic.
I'm gonna definitely. I know the movie, so I'm gonna take your suggestion and try to dig into it a little bit. So we're getting towards the tail end of this simulation theory part 2. My guest Jason from archaics.com, and let's kind of move now into this Phoenix event. And your dates on the calendar are 1940 is when you think the next Phoenix event is going to happen, and that would mean 100. And we do the 138 math, and subtracting that, we go all the way back to the last one, which was in 1902. So it's really interesting because I'm a fan of Campbell and Autodidactic. I know that you've joined forces and done a podcast with him. He's got some great information, and ever since I was introduced to him through Santos, once again, thanks Santos Baracci, the research with the mud floods, and it's just so apparent that this is the Phoenix event, right? And these cities being toppled over with however that got there. But then you see these buildings that they just don't seem like they belong there because there's a horse and buggy and people riding that, and there's these glorious temples that are there, and it's just like something just doesn't sync up right there, right?
Okay, well, from our perspective, from the BS historical narratives that have been passed down to us, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But when you take the human family into proper context, I say this all the time, it just takes 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider. Yep. And when that really sinks in, you can put all that into perspective. The things that Howdy has found, the things that Autodidactic talks about and all that, listen, we had technologically advanced deals. The Phoenix appeared in 1212. It appeared in 1350. It appeared again in 1626, 1488. It appeared in before 1902. Astronomer Hoffman saw it in 1764. We have no idea how many of these resets occurred. Now, you know that I just recently did a 1902 video, my 4th 1902 video. So we have so much data about the reset that happened in 1902 that the scientific community will not even admit. And yet we've processed all this data. We've got all these data points. We got data sets on 1902. And yet, so how much data have we lost that something unusual happened in 1764? Because right after 1764, United States was born. United States took on the greatest empire the world has ever seen and won. And I'm talking about all kinds of weird things just unfolded. The pirate wars, no one even talks about the original U.S. Navy was a pirate navy. We didn't even have a real navy. But there's all kinds. There's all kinds of really anomalies from 1764 to 1776 that are inexplicable. So what you're talking about is these architectural anomalies that these guys are talking about were very real. All I'm bringing to the table is a chronological perspective showing, look, man, we have a template that goes back 5,800 years when these events occurred. You guys are right. These are mud floods. But that's what Phoenix does. It vibrates the ground at such high intensity that everything sinks. It just goes straight into the ground. And then archaeologists, like the ones that are excavating Göbekli Tepe, their dumbasses come up and then they publish scientific reports saying, oh, you know what? They knew this area was going to be destroyed, so they buried it underground before they left. That's ridiculous. The whole notion is ridiculous. But you're right, man. We have been technologically advanced, not before, but many times.
Many times.
And I want to plug somebody real quick because I plugged him on my channel. But Jonathan Gray of the website beforeus.com has basically isolated archaeological artifacts and discoveries going back hundreds of years of everything that has been found technologically advanced that the scientific community won't touch. This man's website and his books are awesome.
Nice. Well, we'll make sure.
He doesn't get the credit he deserves. He has not gotten the credit he deserves.
Has he got a YouTube channel or just a website?
I don't know if he's got a YouTube channel, but I did see that he has a YouTube video. It's basically an audio book of his fantastic book that talks about all this.
Nice,
but
Jonathan Gray.
It's Jonathan Gray, and it's beforeus.com, and I have a video about it.
Before Us. So check it out, ladies and gentlemen, beforeus.com. I mean, for you to give a shout out, that says a lot right there. I had this theory, thinking about all these constructs, thinking about coming on and talking about this with you, and then my deep research that I've been doing, it's kind of led me to I've talked about us living inside this self-contained system. I believe it's more in the shape of an egg than anything else, the cosmic egg. And inside an egg that you buy at the grocery store, there are a lot of people, and I was one of them, they think there's an animal in there, but the truth is there's no animal inside of an egg. The embryo needs to be incubated, needs to be built by incubation, by heat. So the only thing that's alive in that egg essentially is the yolk, which is called the vitellus, and the egg albumin, which is the white, the egg white. And I think that is really the constructs of how our reality works. So this purely is theoretical, Jason, but I want to get your take on this. Is it possible? Because a lot of the mythologies, they talk about Gaia giving birth to these planets. Mm-hmm. Now, is it because the sun is the yolk? That's obvious. The yolk in an egg is what feeds the embryo as it's being incubated. It's the life source of the embryo. And is it possible that all of us are the embryo, which is inside the earth, and the collective energy that we're creating, or individual energy, we are essentially creating an embryo inside a little baby, and it's going to hatch. And that hatching may indeed be the Phoenix event. And when that Phoenix rises, it may just be that we're all part of giving birth to a new planet that jumps up into the outside the firmament, however that looks. And I know this is very abstract. This may be new. It was something that I've kind of been working on, but I want to get your thought. What do you think of that whole, that's purely theoretical now, but we give birth to the Phoenix. We actually create it. And then it goes and may end up creating another planet.
Well, I don't know. I know the egg is a very, very ancient symbol. As a matter of fact, it's one of two. The two oldest symbols in the old totem matriarchal societies, and those were all before the patriarchal. The oldest ones is that the cosmos was an egg, yep, but the world was a giant turtle. And these two symbols are like the oldest I have ever found. And they're even admitted in the Puranic, the Vedic commentaries as being oldest among the symbols. I do believe they added details in the Vedic commentaries in the Puranas that it was the world on a turtle's back and not the turtle itself. Yeah. But like on a shell. But the egg being a metaphysical symbol for the birth of something is not a departure. I mean, that's exactly what an egg does. It brings something new into the world. Yep. So yeah, I mean, I don't really do well with metaphysical interpretations because I can't really attach a number to them. But I do follow them, and I've done a lot of the research, putting the data aside, man, trying to figure out where it fits in my paradigm and all that. But I know the egg was a very ancient symbol for the cosmos, and that the cosmos was here to give birth to something.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't go.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
No, I just wanted to kind of get your take on it. I just think that it ties into the Phoenix event really, really nicely, actually, and the collective and what we're all giving birth to, and why there's so much influence on the world stage. Like, are we going to create an embryo? And, it's interesting because turtles, they lay eggs. So it's just really interesting how those two go together.
Well, wouldn't a phoenix lay an egg?
Of course.
Yeah, I didn't even think. I just made the association myself. So.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting. So, well, anyway, man, I mean, we're on an hour and a half, and I think this maybe unless you want to actually just one more topic, and then we're going to end this. But let's talk about something beautiful, right? Shall we? Well, let's talk about the possibility of where this world is headed once we end up having this Phoenix event. What is your take on that? When this Phoenix event happens, you're saying in 2040, right around there, what do you think the world's going to look like at that point?
Okay. You said you wanted to talk about something beautiful. So I'm going to go beyond that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. May 15th, 2040 is the date for the Phoenix return. All right. We're going to go beyond that, beyond all the apocalyptic period. We're going to go beyond all the return of the chief cornerstone. We're going to go beyond all of that to the collapse of the simulacrum itself. All right. If we strip away all the dressings that have been attached to the prophetic narratives that we have found throughout history, if we strip away all the cultural attachments and we strip away all the prejudicial material, we are left with a body of teachings that basically infers that we're here to be trained for something great, because this is nothing but a training ground. We are here as if we are immortals going through a program for a reason, because like the Christian narrative, in the Christian narrative, which were borrowed a lot from the Gnosis, and the Gnosis was borrowed, a lot of it was Hermetic, a lot of it was taken from old Alexandrian texts that were taken from the Orphic faith and taken from the Delphic faith, going back to the Sibylline oracles. It says we have this chain of knowledge of this belief that in the world beyond, we are going to be like emissaries, envoys, divine appointments, where we're going to be sent to places where our testimony is going to be so incredibly unbelievable to other civilizations that never heard of a curse of sin, had never heard of an AIX, or never heard of murder, death, and burning at the stake, never would have imagined all the horrors that we have experienced in all these life sims. When we experience this and we receive these appointments, it's because the Creator has never stopped. There was no such thing as a creation. The creation has never ended. It's not an event. It's a continuum. Mm-hmm. And because it's a continuum, it will always need envoys to go to new places to teach. We may have had one of those envoys come here inside this construct and do the same thing. This is and to give his testimony appears in different ways. I believe that every single one of us, the true errants, not the NPCs, not the living dead, but those of us who make it through all the way to the end, when the simulacrum collapses, we are the ones given a white stone. We are the ones given a new garment, which has our name. While we're here, we don't have a name, Logan. My name, Jason, only attaches to my avatar. It's not my real name. Yeah. I haven't earned that yet. But when the simulacrum collapses, my name will be determined by all the things that have attached to me, and I accept it as true. All the positivity that I gain through every life sim, that becomes my new cloak. My new cloak is this new immortal body that I will enjoy, and I will have the very powers that I assumed through my life sims. When I appear in another universe, in a whole nother cosmos, I will be the only one. And to those in that civilization, they will see me as an anomaly. And then I will spread my faith, I'll spread my teachings, I'll spread my beliefs, because if the creation is not stopped, then that means there's an infinite amount of worlds to visit to share our experience.
Yeah, like a Mandelbrot set.
Exactly, just like a Mandelbrot set.
Yep.
There's no end. There's no end.
Yeah, no, that's the beautiful part about this. I guess we could, thanks for that explanation. That is a beautiful scenario to really focus upon. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're here, and you're resonating with this information, realize that death is just an illusion. I mean, if you think time is an illusion, well, what about death? And then again, there's nothing to fear because we're running in a cycle. We're running in a pattern under the simulation. And we know that it runs in cycles, right? And because of that, really, the biggest element for you is what are you giving your energy to? And this may be part of your free will, if we have any of that, is that what are you giving your energy to? What are you giving your gas to, right? And are you a standalone? Are you a lone wolf? As Jason said, are you part of the collective, or have you taken your power back and now you're creating your own set of rules, standards, et cetera, et cetera? And I think that's really where it's at. I really do. I feel like I'm there, or at least going towards that way, just from the space that I'm at, being authentic with myself. And it's a never-ending process. I feel, the people I surround myself with are headed that way as well. But it's an individualistic journey. And all that matters, ladies and gentlemen, is what you believe and what you see. Not what I say, not what Jason says, not what anybody else says, not what your neighbor tells you. It really is all about what you end up adopting as your beliefs in the very end. So, Jason, I want to thank you once again. This was. I think this was better than the first one. This was great flow of energy. I really, honestly, really from the deepest parts of my heart, appreciate you and your research, what you're doing here as your avatar. And I think you're just doing a great job at all your stuff. And I know we'll be joining forces again. Maybe I'll end up being the co-host with Santos when you come on the Syncretism Society again.
I'm all for that. Hey, I will say this. You mentioned Campbell. I don't know if Howdy's going to be there, but on the 6th, this coming Monday, I'll be back on with Autodidactic.
Oh, you're going on with Campbell again? Okay. Yeah. So, folks, if you don't know who Campbell is, he's one of the the leaders in the mud floods and all this. He's a great guy. He's got a YouTube channel called Autodidactic. And go subscribe to his channel. Go kick around. Go kick the tire. Go research some of his stuff. So Jason's going to be on his channel on the 6th, next Monday?
On the 6th. Yeah, Monday.
What time?
7 I'm going to be on with 7 a.m. because he's got this real large following in Australia.
He's in Australia,
We're going to be in prime time for him.
Nice.
So
get the coffee out. Get out your coffee, folks.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, my brother. Well, I really appreciate you. Much love to you and your community over at archaics.com. Folks, if you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel or Jason's channel. More importantly, Jason's channel. Go check out and research his stuff that he's put out. Archaics.com is his website. Jason Breshears is his name. He's an authoritative figure in the world of chronology, history, and what he calls the simulacrum. So, once again, folks, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining tonight or wherever you are in the world. Maybe it's the morning time for you. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. As I always say, until next time, folks, we're going to see you later.
Awesome.